game. It's a rich thing.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Bull Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we've got a Chicago Bulls and Toronto Raptors once again game reaction, as of course we played our second night of a back-to-back against the Toronto Raptors, and we walk away with one game apiece. Toronto wins the first game at home in Canada, and then the Bulls win their game at home in Chicago. I think many people probably expected it to go that way. At the end of the day, we played a lot better basketball this time around. You could give credit to the home court advantage, of course, and you could also give credit to the Chicago Bulls learning, I guess, the situation that we put under by the Toronto Raptors and overcoming it. So, two things, ladies and gentlemen, right there that we could talk about, but we also got a lot more we can discuss between the Bulls and the Raptors. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls game today. Who was your player of the game? Your overall thoughts and opinions on how well the Bulls played. I also, quickly before I go into the scoreline, I'm all about giving teams the respect when it's due. At the end of the day, when a team plays well, I want to show that I can still show respect to other teams. And I do think Toronto are very relentless, man. They do not give up on games. They do not give up on their playing style. They will continue to go until the very end of the game, trying to do what they think is right in terms of getting a win. I give full respect to the Toronto Raptors team. At the end of the day, I knew they were always going to be a tough, physical team. They were like that last year. They have been like that for quite a long time now, and again, they're causing a lot of problems for a lot of NBA teams. And the Bulls, look, we learn from our mistakes, of course, but I did want to give respect to the Toronto Raptors. But the Bulls won this game 111-97. Again, I do consider this a good progression step for the Chicago Bulls. I always thought that Zach LaVine coming back into this game would have made a big difference, just because it's going to be extremely difficult to double team and trap DeMar DeRozan every single time down the floor. And DeMar DeRozan, you can look at his stats, you might think he had a very mediocre game by his standards, and that may very well be the case. But today, I really thought DeMar DeRozan had a great game, and I'll explain to you why, I guess, more towards the individual performances. But there's a lot to take away from this game. One thing that I think we did better is that we kind of played very similar to how Toronto played the last time out. If you look at the statistics of this, if you go from the first game, obviously, to this game now, Toronto led in rebounds, led in second chance opportunities, led in 50-50 balls, led in every single statistical category in terms of creating points in the paint as well, including points in the paint. You go to, obviously, I guess, this time around for the Chicago Bulls, we actually are leading in most of those categories. Now, the statistics that I saw in this was a little bit before the fourth quarter actually ended. The Bulls had more assists than the Toronto Raptors. The Bulls had more points in the paint than the Toronto Raptors. The Bulls had more second chance points than the Toronto Raptors, and they had more fast break points than the Toronto Raptors. Of course, Toronto are one of the best teams in steals. They had more steals than the Chicago Bulls, at least from that point in which that photo was taken. So again, a very, very, very interesting game from that perspective, and almost all of those categories in which we got absolutely dominated in the first game against Toronto, we found a way to overcome it and, I guess, lead in some of those statistical categories against the Chicago Bulls. And I've got to say, their defense was solid. Toronto's defense was solid in this game. But I think if you're looking from a Toronto Raptors perspective, I think what, I guess, let them down was their offense. I don't think their offense was particularly great. You're relying on Fred VanVleet to shoot crazy amount of threes from very far distances just to get a little bit of offense going. Guys like Gary Trent had to get to the foul line. Their offense wasn't, I guess, as fluent as, per se, the Chicago Bulls, because Toronto were double teaming DeMar, but then you got Zach LaVine, and when he gets the ball, he can drive to the basket and it's easier. He can shoot threes and it's easier. But our entire bench unit, our entire, I guess, starting lineup as well, was moving better, was playing better, was attacking the paint better. And I think we had more shot makers than the Toronto Raptors, I guess you could say. It was very, very well-rounded, and everybody contributed in this game. Again, I find it very interesting how, I guess, total opposites I guess, attract how Toronto played pretty much the way that the Bulls played yesterday, and then Bulls played very similar today to how Toronto played yesterday as well. So again, it's a very interesting game, but the Bulls learned their lessons. I guess that's what you can say. We adapted well. We obviously had Zach LaVine back in the game, and that was a big help. Obviously, he had a great game as well. And we learned how lessons in terms of how to move the ball, how to overcome traps, how when DeMar DeRozan gets double teamed, we can still find ways to win the game. DeMar DeRozan didn't really have much of a chance to score until the fourth quarter, really, when he just started to run at them before the trap can come, before they can have people thrown at him. He just ran in transition and got fouls. That's basically how DeMar got a lot of his points today. But yes, I think all those statistics that you saw from the Chicago Bulls, the ones that I've already mentioned, are the reason why we won the game. And again, we just overcame what Toronto did. We played similar to how Toronto played in their last time out, and we won the game. And that is an important lesson to learn. And Toronto are a tough team, and they will remain a tough team. We'll wait and see what they could do in the future. I'm sure we'll be versing them again. We will be versing them again 100%, but I can't wait to see how that game could go the third time around. And I know this is a bit early to say because we don't know how both teams are going to go for the rest of the season. I would not mind a Toronto Raptors and Chicago Bulls playoff series. It would be gritty. It'd be tough. It won't be the prettiest game you'll ever see. And I think both teams are equally as competitive right now. So very, very interesting stuff. Let's look at those individual performances. Let's look at those positives and negatives for the Chicago Bulls. We'll start off with DeMar DeRozan, 9.6 rebounds, 7 assists alongside of a steal, 2 from 6 from the field, 0 from 1 from the three-point line. You may look at this game. If you didn't watch the game and you just looked at the statistics, you would say DeMar DeRozan didn't have a great game. Close to a triple-double performance, of course, but still to his standards, he should be scoring 20, 25, 30 points every single night. That's DeMar DeRozan's standards that he set for himself on this team. But the Raptors played a very unique style, a style that I haven't seen any team really play on this Chicago Bulls team, where they doubled DeRozan as soon as he got the ball. They sent bodies at him. They did it in Toronto and it worked. They did it in this timeout and it didn't necessarily work as well. But DeMar had a bad game because of that. But why I like this game is because DeMar DeRozan getting trapped every single possession led for other guys to have great games. DeMar DeRozan wasn't selfish. DeMar DeRozan wasn't chucking up 21 shots this game. DeMar DeRozan knew the situation of what was coming. He was trapped. He was double teamed. He was triple teamed at times. He passes the ball to the open man. Players move around. Players cut to the paint. Easy points in the paint. Easy three-point shots. Open shots all the way around. And it worked. And this team made the shots it needed to make today. What I also found very interesting about this game, and one thing I'm very, very grateful for, is if Toronto won this game with Zach LaVine in the lineup and them still double teaming DeMar, every single other team in the NBA is going to watch that game and copy. It's a copycat league, ladies and gentlemen. If you double team DeMar and you still have Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic there that are not making the efforts or production that they can, and we lose that game with our majority of our best team there, obviously except for Andre Drummond, Alonzo, and Kobe as well, but most of our team is still there, that is going to be very, very, in my opinion, would have been extremely upsetting because every other team would have copied what Toronto did to us. That would have been the game plan to how to stop the Bulls, in my opinion. Thankfully, one game, it worked. One game, it did not work. And hopefully, we don't see a lot of teams try to copy what the Toronto Raptors do in the future, because that will be disastrous for the Chicago Bulls, in my opinion. Thankfully, we did walk away with the win in this game nonetheless. And I thought DeMar did okay, did his job very, very well, considering the fact of how they were playing him. Patrick Williams, 10.6 rebounds, 2 assists, alongside of a block, 4 from 8 from the field, 0 from 2 from the three-point line. A solid night for Patrick Williams, if I do say so myself. Again, I like his rebounding a lot. I think as the power forward of this team, I can't expect him to average 10 rebounds per game. I definitely can't ask him to do that, considering we have Vucevic, who is a phenomenon on the rebounding side of things. And then obviously when we get guys like Andre Drummond back into the team, the rebounds are going to go to them most likely. So I can't ask Patrick Williams to average 10, 15 rebounds every single night. But I think for most of these games now, his rebounding has been much more improved and he's getting more into the rebounding things. And he did very well in transition today as well. So I give respect to Patrick Williams' performance today. And just, again, it's something I'm going to mention every time with Patrick Williams. Keep on going. I want to see more. I want to see more of this performance. I want to see more improved performances from this as well, because I want Patrick Williams to be greedy. I want him to take his shots. I want him to run the game. And we're slowly starting to see, I guess, that new leaf for Patrick Williams. I hope that's what we're seeing nonetheless. Nikola Vucevic, 15 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, alongside of 2 blocks, 7 for 14 from the field, 1 from 4 from the three-point line. A lot more post hooks in today's game, ladies and gentlemen, and that's where Vucevic does his bread and butter. A lot of mid-ranges, but a lot of post hooks as well, and we're giving him the ball in very good areas where he can make a contribution. Again, when you're looking at Toronto Raptors team, I know I got a lot of comments from Toronto Raptors fans, and I'm expecting them to come back in this video as well, saying that they do have the center presence there. Obviously, they had Koloko there as well. I don't know how to really pronounce his name. I'm sorry. My accent gets in the way of a lot of the names in the NBA, to be fair. They also had Chris Boucher as well. And yes, they have centers. I guess my words were kind of twisted. I don't mean by they don't have centers that they actually don't have no centers. What I mean is they're very thin in the center position. Their centers are often fairly smaller compared to what the Bulls would have. And they're not necessarily, in my opinion, they're kind of small ball centers in many ways as well. And I think the Bulls took advantage of that a little bit more in today's game. And I even think, and I'm still going to correct myself after I say this, I think the small ball lineup works very well today. And I have to admit when I'm wrong. The small ball lineup works well, and I can't deny that. But I'm going to stand by my comments that I made in the last game reaction and say we cannot keep overusing the small ball lineup. It may have worked well today against the Raptors. That doesn't mean it's going to work well for 82 games of the season. We can't keep overusing it. Yes, it worked well today. It mainly worked well today because Dave Jones had an unbelievably strong game. But outside of that, I do think we can't keep using small ball as a way to come back into games or to play it for the majority of our bench unit. We've got to see bigger bodies in this team, and I do still believe we play bigger with bigger men in the lineup. So again, I can admit when I'm wrong. I can admit when I watched the game, I saw the small ball lineup and it played well. But in the future, I still don't think we should be overusing it. But again, outside of that, Nikola Vucevic had a strong game. Good post moves, good mid-range. Obviously, very solid rebounding. Got good blocks in today's game as well. He made himself more of a presence in the paint. That's one thing you need to have from Nikola Vucevic. On the defensive side and the offensive side of things, he needs to be a paint presence. And again, I think it showed with our points in the paint compared to theirs. And obviously, I think it showed in every other avenue as well. All the stats that I've already mentioned. So good stuff from Nikola Vucevic. But Zach LaVine, the one that we really needed in today's game to help the Chicago Bulls. He played 32 minutes. Very, very solid stuff. 30 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, alongside of 2 steals in this game. 11 from 20 from the field, 4 from 8 from the three-point line. This is the Zach LaVine I feel like from last season. I think this is the closest we've seen Zach LaVine to, I guess, his best self compared to last year and 2 years ago. And here's the reason why. Zach LaVine had a great game against Brooklyn. But in Brooklyn, he had 20 of his 29 points in the fourth quarter. He erupted in one quarter. And that was great. Obviously, those stats show that it was the same Zach LaVine from last year and 2 years ago, but this was much more well-rounded. Zach LaVine had a good start to the game. Zach LaVine had a good end to the game as well. Zach LaVine was solid for most of the game. I still feel like his explosiveness and I guess his athletic ability, his jumping ability, is still relatively missing. An easy alley-oop that Zach LaVine may have caught once before, he didn't necessarily catch in today's game. Granted, it was a fairly bad pass in my opinion. But yes, we can see better from Zach LaVine in my opinion with more explosiveness. And that's kind of what we're waiting for. That may take time to come. That may not even come this season. But if Zach LaVine can make his shots, make his mid-ranges, make his threes, get to the foul line and cause a nuisance in those areas offensively, then we are a dangerous team. And we've seen that firsthand already in this game. And hopefully we can see it in the future as well. But with Zach LaVine, we have seen this season inconsistencies. We've got to make sure that is not a big factor for the Chicago Bulls in the next time out and in the future. Zach LaVine has to become a little bit more consistent in the future. And then Ayo Dosunmu, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, alongside of 2 blocks, 5 from 10 from the field, 2 from 7 from the three-point line. What I like about Ayo, and what I'm going to mention for pretty much every single one of these guys that will be coming off the bench, Everybody moved very well today. Again, the movement was night and day from the Raptors game to the Bulls game. We got a lot of opportunities in the paint because players moved. Ayo cut to the basket. He took responsibility and he drove to the basket. Patrick Williams drove to the basket. Caruso and Green drove to the basket. They made efforts to really attack the paint in today's game, which is exactly how you have to beat the Toronto Raptors unless you're an elite three-point shooting team. If you're an elite three-point shooting team, you may be able to get away with it considering how they trapped DeMar DeRozan. But when we're not an elite shooting team, that's how we have to play the Toronto Raptors. We've got to attack the paint. We've got to make sure we have more paint points than them. And we've got to make sure we defend the paint as well, because I don't believe Toronto are an amazing three-point shooting team. I think their offense is one of the biggest reasons why they lose most of their games. Their defense is my opinion. Their defense could really get up there as one of the best in the league. I have no doubt about that. Toronto play very, very solid defense, but their offense is kind of what let them down in today's game, and I feel like that's how it's going to let them down in the future as well. So they've got to pick things up a little bit more offensively, but at the end of the day, they play great defense, and we had to make sure that we attacked their paint, and we did that, and we did it correctly, and I played a big part in that, so fair play. Moving into the bench lineup, by the way, bench points was also much higher for the Chicago Bulls, so we got to give a huge respect to this bench. Yes, it was small, and yes, small ball played well today, but these guys really stepped up, and I loved every bit of it. Javonte Green, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. Again, he was everywhere. His movement is really, really effective, and I think it caused Toronto a lot of problems. There were a couple of offensive rebounds that I saw where, again, if he's just not moving, we don't get those offensive rebounds. We don't get those second chance points, second chance opportunities. And it goes the same with Caruso. It goes the same with most of our other guys. Our offensive rebounding was much better in today's game. So fair play to Javonte Green on a very solid night. Goran Dragic with a 10.5 rebound, 2 assists, and 1 steal night. 4 from 9 from the field. I think he played better, obviously, against Toronto in Toronto. But very, very solid night here as well. Can't really complain too much about Goran Dragic's performance. Alex Caruso had 4.6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Extremely underrated performance from Alex Caruso today. Yes, in the last game in Toronto, he had 11 rebounds and 11 assists, but he didn't have those stats because he didn't necessarily start today. But of course, he only made 1 from 2 from the field, so he didn't take 11 field goals this time out compared to last time, but he made 1 of them, and he had 4 points overall. I would say a good night from Alex Caruso as well, offensively and defensively for this team. Derrick Jones Jr. had 12 points and 2 rebounds in the game, 5 from 5 from the field. Very, very good stuff to see. We even saw 13 seconds of Tony Bradley, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, we saw some game time from Tony Bradley. He got 1 rebound in the game. 13 seconds. I mean, my goodness. Anyway, I want to see Tony Bradley play a little bit more than 13 seconds, and especially in minutes where it doesn't really matter. But again, for him, it will matter. For him, he has to impress in any single game time that he gets. And if it's 13 seconds, well, you got to go out and play 13 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I want to see him play a little bit more. The must improve for this team, very, very hard to come by, to be honest. And I'm not going to lie, I don't think I'm going to give a must improve for this game either. Again, I feel like our biggest problems and our biggest strengths when we versed the Toronto Raptors was a lot of the team effort that we actually had. And team effort wins games. Team play wins basketball games. It's as simple as that. And we didn't isolate today. We didn't see one player shoot unbelievably poorly that it let us down. We didn't see, I guess, guys not trying. I think this is a very valiant team effort. And I don't think we need to give a must improve for this type of game where we played hard, we fought well, everybody contributed. It was a team effort. And most importantly, we won the game. And all those stats that we saw in the first time out against Toronto were rectified in this game against the Toronto Raptors. So very, very good stuff to see there. My player of the game, I'm going to give it to Zach LaVine. Again, when he returns and drops 30 points on the Toronto Raptors, that's exactly what we needed. And it shows what I was saying in that last game reaction. They can't double team 2 guys. They can't double team Vooch and double team DeMar when you have Zach LaVine in the lineup as well, because then you've got an extra player who's an all-star level player that can come in and make a huge difference. And that's exactly what we did, and that's exactly what we saw. So I'm going to give it to Zach LaVine for kind of proving my point right, and obviously going out and showing it on the court for the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, second night of a back-to-back as well. This Bulls team fought hard. I give credit to them for fighting the way that they did. And we've got to move on now, ladies and gentlemen. We are back to 500, a 6-6 record, with our next game coming against the New Orleans Pelicans. We will verse them twice in a couple of days, I think, maybe twice in a week or something like that. So we've got a team that absolutely destroyed us in preseason, essentially. Now, Preseason doesn't define anything really. I'm not sure what their health situation is looking like. I did see Brandon Ingram not play one of the games, but again, it's a dangerous team. Zion Williamson caused us big problems. CJ McCollum caused us big problems. Jonas Valanciunas is playing at a very good level right now. So it's definitely not a team to be taken lightly. And we'll wait and see how the Bulls can figure out a way to win, if we can figure out a way to win. Let's wait and see how we go. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video, ladies and gentlemen. Good win for the Bulls. And I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.